resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Well, hello, my next level friends. Welcome to the Artist Next Level podcast. I am very happy and excited to have you here one more time. If you haven't done so yet, check out the last two episodes where I chatted about Instagram. First, the 5 things you should be doing right now on Instagram. And then last week, I answered your Instagram questions. Great episodes. Super cool. You really need to pay attention to those if you're serious about Instagram. And today, I want to talk to you about the Small Works Art Sales Challenge. Yep, it's that time of the year. We're only 1 week away from kicking off the Small Works Art Sales Challenge, which starts Monday, September 21st. So in this episode, I want to tell you a little bit about that, what it is, how it works, and why you should be on it, because it can really help you improve your sales, increase your sales as we get towards the end of the year, particularly in the time that we're living right now. I think this episode would really help you. So let's first start with that. So what in the world is the Small Works Art Sales Challenge? Well, the Small Works Art Sales Challenge, my friend, it is none other than a program, a 10-week program or challenge that I do with hundreds of artists every year. And I've been doing this myself as an artist for 8 years, and then with other artists, inviting others to be part of it for the last 4. And it's always amazing. It's always very successful, always very exciting, to work with artists. And what the program is about is a 10-week kind of a program in which, you will be creating momentum for your art, releasing a small body of work or a small edition of works and so on, with the purpose of bringing attention to the thing that you're doing right now or something that you have done recently, with the purpose of also, adding more collectors to your to your list of contacts, and of course after that to release this series and make sales. Something that I think right now is super important as we go through the pandemic, and many artists have been highly affected by the pandemic itself. The challenge is something that you can do to really help you revive your your art business, really bring attention, bring new collectors, bring new eyes to this new offering that you're going to give and releasing to your people in order to make more sales. And I want to tell you a little bit more about this framework, because this is something, like I said, that I've been doing for a while myself, 8 years to be exact. And it all started because I really love to make large work. If you're familiar with what I do as an artist, you'll know, if you follow me on Instagram or if you visited my website or anywhere else, that I love to do large work, very decent life size work and some medium size, but I really wasn't thinking too much about smaller works until, really seriously I started thinking about that 8 years ago. And I was really with this idea of, I have all these large works, it's expensive, it needs a lot of space, and collectors love it, but sometimes they just don't have the space. And there are other people who love it, but they cannot afford it, right? It's really large, and it makes great, work for shows and galleries and museums and so on. But, I was thinking about the different types of collectors that are out there, and, I knew I had by then I had a very decent audience, which were following me, were coming to my shows, were doing all these things, but they had never purchased anything. And I started to think, what if I do towards the end of the year, as we get closer to Christmas time and people begin to, to spend more time for gifts for themselves or for others, or, companies are giving also gifts to their employees and things like that. What if I have something to offer? But at the same time, I didn't want to just create a series of work just because I wanted to make something commercial. That was not the point really of, just making something that it can sell. I really wanted to have artistic integrity and thinking about, what can I do, something that I feel proud about as an artist, as a creator, that is, has my integrity of a concept, an idea, as an art, proposition, but it can also function, in the world of commerce in a way that people who normally cannot access my larger work, maybe they have something that they can collect and value, for years to come. So that was kind of like the main premise about it. So I was thinking about it for a long time, and I realized, like, this is something I'm going to do. I'm going to take this challenge upon myself to come up with an idea. So I created what I called back then 41 Winters. That was the title of my series, 41 Winters. And pretty much the main idea was to make a small work, 12 by 12, kind of abstract work, with, kind of the idea of one artwork representing 1 year of my life. I was 41 years old, so I said, okay, 41 winters will be one winter per year. I grew up in Mexico, and in Mexico City, you don't see snow at all. So I really wanted to, kind of look back and say, well, now that I'm here in the United States, and I have noticed the season changes and all things like that, I'm really aware of winter and snow and all those things. So I wanted to do this series of 41 winters. Well, I did the series, and lo and behold, I really enjoyed it so much that I said, well, even though it's called 41 winters, I'm going to do more. I ended up doing 64 small works, small 12 by 12. And I didn't have actually a lot of money to buy 64 canvases because they could get really expensive, as you know. So I really needed to use materials that I could work with, that would be accessible to me. So I actually went to the hardware store. I looked at those sheets of paneling, wood panels that were, I think, 4 feet by 8 feet. And I said, what if, I just cut them in one square foot each. So I talked to the guy there who worked at the hardware store. Say, hey, can you cut these 2 panels into 1 foot squares? And he said, yeah, sure. So he cut all of them, and that's what he came up to, 64, pieces out of those 2 panels. So I took him home, and that's what I started. Again, initially with the idea of 41, ended up being 64. Then for the backing, what I did is I put like 2 strips of wood and a wire to connect both strips. And that was the hanging mechanism. So it worked out actually really beautiful because the work had a 2-inch relief from the wall. You didn't have to frame it. It was painted to the edge, and it looked like it was just floating on the wall. So it really had a really nice, beautiful, pristine finish. And I started working on this, and then thinking about winter and what's winter all about. And, for me, the experience of winter, cold, snow, coffee, lots of coffee. And I actually started to add coffee grounds to my paint and to the medium that I was using. And I started creating some really nice stains, and I ended up using coffee for a lot of the works. So they had also kind of like this coffee feel, coffee smell to them. And, then I started to think about this idea of each winter and what winter means as well. And started doing some research and found a beautiful poem by Rene Brandt, which was an amazing poem about winter. So I adapted the poem as kind of as an inspiration for the show, for the series. And, I was really having a great time, thinking small, making this body of small, intimate work about winter based on this poem. So the opportunity came to do actually a show along with it at the end of the year, leading up to December. And so I said yes to that opportunity, and that actually became an exhibition. It was called 41 Winters. Well, I did a lot of marketing, kind of a planning for it, released the series, did all my marketing, sent out press releases, and it actually got a write-up, a mention also from National Public Radio, NPR, here station in Chicago, and they picked up the story of these 41 winters and the poem and the idea of winter and all the stuff, and they featured it on the radio, and it was pretty amazing, pretty cool. And the fun part of it is that a lot of people came to the show and purchased works, people that had never purchased anything before, mostly because they could not afford my $5,000, $10,000 much more expensive, bigger works, but they could afford a couple hundred, on a small work. And to tell you the truth, it went really, really well. I sold a lot of the works. I don't remember how many I sold on that month, because this is 8 years ago, but I sold the majority of them. I had a small stack that over the next year or so, eventually sold the whole collection with like 3 or 4 that I left here at home, just for my own enjoyment of that series. But everything else sold out, and it was really awesome. A lot of people who came and purchased one, maybe 2 months later, they came and say, "Hey, Sergio, I purchased one. Now I have money for my second one, so that I can put them side by side, or I can have a set," which was really exciting to see, people being excited about it. So the reason I'm saying this is because once I realized, this was something really cool and something that I enjoy doing as an artist, and that, with the whole story behind it, it was really exciting to see also people come and wanted to participate on 41 Winter. So I started next year, said, what if I do the same thing next year? Of course, not the same series, but another opportunity for people to come in at a smaller price point by giving them something small. And that was, the beginning of what I started doing in my career at the end of every year, the Small Works Challenge for myself, and being very successful at it, continuing to evolve into the marketing piece of it, making it better and better, as time went by. And then 4 years ago, when I started the Art Next Level Academy, which is my coaching program for artists, from around the world, I thought what a great experience would be if I bring, other artists into the challenge, and they do it with me. They see me doing it alone. I show them how to do it, how I do it, and they can do it alone and see what happens. And it was an amazing experience. The very first time we ran the Small Works Artists Challenge with hundreds of other artists from around the world who joined the challenge. And it was pretty neat because then we worked together. And the way the challenge works is every week, starting on the 21st, I give you a short video. So you watch the videos, no more than 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe the most on the longer ones. You watch the video, think about it, you do your part of the challenge, which may be, for example, thinking about, what you could do as an artist, right? What kind of offers could you create? What kind of art can you make? Would it be a collection of 10 pieces or 20 or 5? You pick, you choose. There's no specific number. You make the decisions. I give you the framework. And then we talk about, I'll help you, with what's the work about. I'll help you with, creating your press release, and I'll help you with ideas of, how to start marketing the release of this series. I help you, week by week with all these things. And what's pretty fun is that then we have also every week a live Q&A session where you can join in, and I answer questions like, hey, I don't know how much I should price this. Should I have 20 or 30? Should I have 10 or 50? All those kind of nitty gritty questions that will come for sure during the challenge. They get answered in the challenge. Not only that, but you also get connected with other artists who are doing the challenge from around the world and share ideas. You will see some artists who are doing the challenge, from their home, others who are doing it online, others who have an event, others who may have a virtual event. I mean, you name it, it can go in many, many directions. And particularly now with the pandemic, it's a great time in which you can do this challenge from the comfort of your home, from the comfort of your studio, build momentum, and bring people in. And something that I didn't plan, at the beginning when I started doing the challenge myself is, the people that I started adding to my mailing list because of every challenge I was doing each year, how some people started to look forward to the next year to see what I was going to release. And also people who initially purchased a small work and then years later came back and say, okay, now I'm ready to buy this big one, or now I want to, upgrade and buy something else. So many of them who were at one time buyer of a small work became, long-term collectors, and over time spending significant amount of money in my art career, buying the work that I create. So, that is the long-term effect, of the Small Works Challenge. It's not just selling something small. The point is not which sometimes people get confused. Artists get confused. Well, Sergio, I don't want to do all this work for just a few small things that I could sell. Well, they're looking at it short term. They're looking at what their eyes can see. I always look at things, farther out into the future and the long effect of the things that you do today. So, you do this. It's work, and you have to stay on with the challenge and so on. But you do this, and then the long effects, will come from various years. You will learn how to do better marketing. You will learn how to do a release, and now you can repeat this at any time of the year. That you have something to pull out. You can go through your notes. You can go through the framework that I'll be sharing with you, and say, okay, now I have the tools and techniques and strategies that I can do this again in March or April or May, or for my next opening show, or for a virtual event, or for a group show, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Now you have a framework, and hundreds of artists have participated over the years, and it's been really awesome. Last year, some of our artists, as we went, for example, working on the week of doing the press release, some of the artists were like, well, I don't know if I should send this press release. I don't know if anybody will care about a virtual event. And this is before the pandemic, right? This is before the pandemic, when, not many people were doing virtual events. So, but, again, we have been doing it for a while, through the challenge. So, artists began to send their press releases and things like that. And, there was an artist who was featured on television. Her press release actually landed in the hands of a TV station. They really loved her story and what the works were about. They invited her to go into the studio, and they did an interview for her. It was not just like a 5-minute little review. It was an actual interview. She talked about it. They asked her, why virtual, why online, and it was amazing, right? Other artists had featured also on their local newspapers, on magazines, and so on. And others did not get featured. That is the truth too. You just never know. But unless you throw the ball out there, you will not have those opportunities. And even if you don't get picked, even if you don't get featured, but now you know how to do a press release. Now you have the framework that you can use that now anytime. In other words, the challenge gives you all this wealth of material that you can use it at any time. And it was really great. And then, so we worked towards, releasing the work, and everybody can release it whenever they want. There's no specific date. Some artists release it at the end of November, others mid-November, others, beginning of December. And you pick your date when you're going to release it, and you release it, right? You follow the steps as we go along, and it's very, very fun. And we talk about building your email list. We talk about following up, and it is great. And then at the end of the session, many artists, reported strong sales. Many artists reported, also new commissions, or people who came because of the challenge to see the small works, but then they ended up buying a bigger piece, which happens all the time too, right? Again, the small works can also be an excuse to create momentum for also people to come and see your larger work, which always is very, very fun to see artists who sell also some other bigger stuff. And some artists may not see much results then and now at the moment, but then they will see it later as they continue the follow-up, as they have added new people in. Sometimes they get people that come back and they buy something big or substantial because they first saw them at the Small Works Challenge. So it's really, really cool. So what do you need to participate? You don't need right now to have an idea what to do. Part of the challenge is to help you brainstorm ideas. You can use existing art. You can make new art. You can use reproductions. You can use merchandise. And I'll talk about the pros and cons of different things. The pros and cons of using new art versus something that you already have done. So I'll give you all these ideas that you can work with and think about what you might do. As far as time commitment, well, you need to commit every week to watch the video and to do your part of the challenge, right? Because at the end of the day, it's you. We don't do the challenge for you. We just tell you how to do it, what to do, and answer your questions, but you gotta do the actual work. And it's doable. We have many artists who have full-time jobs, and they still are able to do the challenge just fine, right? And it works well because that's why we stretch it for 10 weeks. It's not a one of those 5-day challenges that you see all the time in social media that do this challenge in 5 days and you'll be getting all this stuff. Well, no, this is really in depth, 10 weeks, so that we divide it in smaller chunks so that it is doable. My goal is that you succeed, not that you just fill your mind with information. So that's the time commitment that you need to be part of the challenge. We kick off on September 21st, so the doors close on the 21st. So make sure that if you want to be part of the challenge, that you sign up, you're registered, you join us, because that's when we all kick in and we go from there. You don't need to have experience on selling art. Some of you may have sold art before, a lot of art, and now you want to learn new techniques, new ways of working. So that's great for you. Some of you have never sold art, and this may be a great motivation to get started, right? To figure out how to do it. So everything in between, and again, because you're going to be working, towards building your audience and making momentum in your audience, not in somebody else's audience, right? So there's no competition in that sense. Doesn't matter how many artists are in the challenge, because again, everybody's working with their own social media channels, with their own things, their own emails and things like that. You don't need a mailing list. Of course, if you have one, that's great, because then you already have a head start. But maybe you never taken the time to build an email list, so I'll help you set that up. Also give you ideas how to create a landing page for your email list that you can use, tactics to help you bring people to your mailing list. Also, you don't need to have a website. Of course, if you have one, it's much easier, much better, but you don't have to. You can do this all through social media, and you just have to be very active at it, right, to make sure that you don't miss any opportunity. But of course, if you have a website that you can put things for purchase, makes your life a lot easier, but it's not a requirement. I'll talk about again the pros and cons and how to do it without a website. So that's what it is, my friend. So if you want to check it out, the challenge, again, you can go to our website, which is www.theartistnextlevel.com/sales. Again, www.theartistnextlevel.com/sales. It will take you to the page that explains the whole challenge, gives you more information. You will see some testimonials of others who have done the challenge. I'll give you all the instructions, how to register, what's the price, to be part of the challenge, how to get started. So if you want to join us, my friend, I really encourage you, particularly if you're having a hard time during the pandemic. Don't think that people are not buying. Let me first say that. Don't think that people are not buying. Just because pandemic doesn't mean that people stop buying. Actually, there's a lot of people with now extra money because they're not going out on vacations. They're not spending on expensive events or holiday dinners and stuff like that. So they have now extra money, and because they're spending extra time at home, this is a great time, an opportunity for them to buy art from the artists that they love and they want to support. That's what it's all about. It's not about being salesy or gimmicky. It's about giving your audience that has been following you for a while, a chance to participate in what you're doing, to do something very cool, and by doing so, receiving in the mail something that they can enjoy for years to come. So hope you consider joining me. It's going to be really awesome. I already have tons of artists who are signed up and ready to get started. But if you don't want to be left behind, again, just go to www.theartistnextlevel.com/sales. Hope to see you at the challenge. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And please share with all your friends. And I will see you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.